More women are running for office, but they still make up a small percentage of elected officials. Brian Page tried to find out why.
Hillary Clinton announced Sunday she will take the nomination for president in 2016. Clinton becoming president could mean a big step toward gender equality.
Don't you someday want to see a woman president of the United States of America?
Over at American University School of Communication, Professor Molly O'Rourke says the visibility of women in politics is on the rise, but it's not something that's in the rearview mirror.
There's still only 20% of the Senate is women, and just about 20% of the House members are women. And so we've made a lot of progress, and it's great, but women still face real barriers in running for office.
Although change is inevitable, she hopes women will not blindly vote for Clinton just because she's a woman, but instead focus on her presidential qualities.
She's so competent and she's so qualified, and I think that she has a lot of appeal to women voters, but I think that's not going to be the rationale for her candidacy. I don't think there's really an audience out there of voters who want to vote for a woman candidate just for the sake of voting for a woman candidate. But knowing that she has a perspective to bring to issues, how it's been for her as a working woman and as a wife and a spouse, and in those roles, I think it's something that a lot of voters are looking to have leaders that can relate to those experiences.
Many women have expressed their overjoyed excitement in wake of Clinton's candidacy and permeated that energy to the Twitter scene. This has been District Wire News. I'm Brian Page.
The role of women in U.S. politics has changed dramatically over the past few decades, but women still only make up 20% of Congress, even though they are more than half of the U.S. population. To talk about women's roles, we have Professor Pilar McKay. She's a full-time professor of public communication at American University. Dr. McKay, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
On Sunday, Hillary Clinton announced that she would seek the presidency for a second time and establish herself as the likely 2016 Democratic nominee. According to CBS News polls conducted in February, 81% of Democrats said they would consider voting for her. So what has she done in the past 2 years that can convince the public she is qualified for the presidency campaign?
Well, 2 years is not a lot of time to prepare for a presidential campaign, right? So since she's left the Obama administration, what we've seen is less of a public presence, but really the hard work behind the scenes, which means that for her to prepare for this campaign, she has to get her team in order. And I think that's where we've seen her work most in the last 2 years.
So why did Hillary lose the campaign against President Obama? Do you think that the American people didn't think Hillary Clinton was diverse enough compared to Obama?
Well, we've seen various reports of what happened in the 2008 election, and it's a very interesting question the more we get away from 2008. Plain and simple, she didn't win enough of the Democratic nomination votes, right? So she won some primaries, she won some caucuses, but she didn't win. And a lot of that was, when we're looking at the election season, it's about momentum. And we saw that Obama just gained momentum and put himself in a position for the nomination. Whether or not she was diverse enough, that's a question that it's interesting, right? But she really built herself a coalition at that time that was strong. But in the end of the day, the Obama campaign was stronger and won the nomination.
So when people see Hillary Clinton run for the presidency, do you think people see her or Bill Clinton's wife to run for the president?
I think it's a really loaded question, and it's what's really interesting for female candidates in particular is that they get that question a lot, right? We rarely hear candidate Clinton being said, well, she's also Chelsea's mother, and Chelsea has a great public persona right now, so why can't we also position her like that? I think that Bill has done a lot post-presidency with the foundation, and I'm not quite sure if the brand is as much Bill and Hillary or just Hillary by herself right now. She's had a great career in civics that really positions herself as a strong candidate.
So let's talk about how Hillary Clinton's experience of a Secretary of State and a State Department. what advantage do you think she may have for the campaign?
Well, what's interesting now is of the declared candidates, we have all senators, and Hillary Clinton was also a senator herself. So she has the domestic agenda, and she has an idea of what to do at the domestic level. Internationally, being Secretary of State gives her those credentials as well. So it'll be interesting to see as we move from the primary stage onto the national campaign, if she does win the nomination, how much the Secretary of State experience does set her apart from the competition.
So would you consider about to support her?
Me personally?
Yep.
I teach. That's what I do. So I don't read tea leaves.
So now I want to show a graphic about how women are underrepresented across all levels of government. This is the data released Wednesday by the Reflecting Democracy campaign. Here we can see white men make up more than 30% of the population, but hold 65% of elected office in the United States. While men of color make up 19% of the population, but only 7% of elected officials. Women of color are 19% of the population, but hold only 4% of elected office. White men are 32% of Americans, and 25% of elected officials. So Professor McKay, how do you think about this imbalance between the men and women in politics? Do you think Hillary Clinton ran for president will help to change this situation? What do you think about the situation will be in 2016?
It's very interesting, and I think the adjective I would use most is embarrassing. We have this civic environment, this representative democracy that is not representing who we are. And there's a lot of issues around that, why women aren't running, why women don't want to be involved in this kind of electoral campaign craziness that happens. Will Hillary help? I think Hillary has already helped. I mean, she's been in the public attention since well before 1992. When Bill takes the stage in 1988 during his speech, we started thinking of him as a viable national candidate. We already know that there are women in political positions who were inspired to run by Hillary. And will she continue to do that? Yes. But I think what's interesting is who inspired Hillary to run, who Hillary has inspired to run, and who those people will inspire to run in the future. And you'll start to see a cascade, one would hope. And a lot of that isn't just about national level politics. It takes a lot of work to become a candidate that can run for president, run for Senate, run for the United States House of Representatives. Are we, and we're not, seeing the level of participation in even the local government? Our school boards. 8 in 100 major cities have female mayors, and we're lucky to live in one of those cities. But we're not seeing even engagement at the level of, I'm running and have to convince my neighbors. That troubles me the most.
So how do you think it may change later?
I think when we're looking for 2016, we're starting to see how the field is going to pan out. I think what's going to be an interesting conversation is who's going to run for VP, because that's going to really kind of get under this idea of gender politics. Will Hillary have to have someone who is not a woman as well? Will the Republicans run a female president or vice president candidate? Those are the things that I'll be looking for in 2016, but I'm interested in 2020, 2024. People who are our age, and will they decide to run down the road? And what kind of leadership and training we're giving them to do that.
So talking about the women's roles in the politics world, I have to mention Victoria Woodhull. She was the first female candidate in United States for U.S. president in 1872. She ran in 1872 from the Equal Rights Party, supporting women's suffrage and equal rights. From the time Victoria Woodhull ran for presidency in 1872 to now, when Hillary Clinton ran for the presidential election for 2016, so have the demographics or attitude of people changed toward women in politics?
Well, 1872 was a long time ago. I wasn't around. What does concern me is that I don't think it's changing fast enough. Hillary released her video yesterday. I read the first analysis in the New York Times about it, and they were talking about how she has great eyes and how people look. And women are concerned more about how their hair looks. And Victoria Woodhull had fabulous hair, but I'm sure they were talking about her hair too and her wardrobe. Will we ever break these kind of visual just stereotypes of what our female leaders look like, how they sound, what their voice sounds like? Are we going to leave those behind now because we have Hillary and she's a viable candidate, or are we going to be sticking with those until 2072?
Yep. Thank you for joining us, Professor McKay.
Thank you.